Wewe ni sawa. Nimeshika kama mtoto. Nilikuwa na kitchen kadogo na hiyo bed. Hata wanaweza
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. How was our day? So, hope we all enjoyed our day. And as for Muslim brothers and sisters, how was the first day of Ramadan? Hope we are all observing the fast. Okay. So, what time does the fast end? Can somebody tell me what time does the fast end? Let me be sure we are not. So what time? For the Muslim brothers and sisters here, what time does the fast end? No, like, okay. No, like the time is what I'm asking, not the day. So somebody says 6:35 p.m. in Kenya. So here in Nigeria, what time? So that will be better able to. So what time? Okay, 6:30 in Yola. Okay. So that means it's 6:30 in Nigeria that the fast ends. Okay. So that's good. That means everyone in this class, the Muslim brothers and sisters in our midst, you've ended your fast and you've had enough time to even rest and eat. Somebody said it's 8:35 p.m. in Cameroon. I would have assumed Cameroon and Nigeria is the same time. The fast in Cameroon ends by 8:35 p.m. That's serious. Okay. Let's move on. At least maybe for those that just broke their fast, maybe they'll be joining us in a while. So we can't keep waiting. So let's move on. Okay, so yesterday we started a few things talking about Excel, talking about the lovely things around this course, data analytics, how it has become one of the most important tech skill that everybody wants to get involved with. And we also looked at the processes that data analytics is involved with and a lot of other things. So at this point, I want to believe everybody can see my screen. Okay, so we talked about so many other things. We even talked about the tabs. We did an introduction to the Excel interface where I talked about the tabs, the ribbons, the worksheets, the workbook, our columns, our rows. So I want to believe if I ask someone here or everyone here what a column is, they know it. If I ask what a row is, they know it. If I ask what a cell is, they know it. If I ask what a worksheet is, they know it, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that was what we were able to do yesterday after the introductory part of introducing the course data analysis. So remember, I've told us yesterday that this course is divided into 3 phases.
Something to be vulnerable and be abused, and you're dealing with it at home, and you cry, oh my God, you cry. But it's
okay, so sorry about that. Some persons are complaining about my voice. Is it that low? Please, can we all hear me? I'm getting a lot of messages here around my voice. My voice is low. Please, can we all hear me? Am I being audible enough? Let me not just be here talking to myself. Please. And now I'm confused. Some persons say it is loud and clear, while some say it's not audible enough. Some say it's audible from their own side. Okay, please let us all try to adjust our audio device. I think it may also be from your own audio. So adjust your audio device, whatever audio device you're making use of. I really don't think it's from my end. Okay, so that being said, I said yesterday we did an introduction of all of this, cell, worksheet, workbook, and all of that. So today, we are going to move into practical things. So this is data analytics. We don't do theory here. Everything we'll be doing in this course, they are all practicals. So I also said something yesterday about the 3 phases of this course, where I mentioned Excel, I mentioned Power BI, and then I mentioned the SQL. So someone reached out to me on my DM and was asking about the softwares for these other parts of the program. So I just felt that was that's important. Let me just say it here. So you'll be using those 3 softwares, but however, the only software that you'll be using that is not open source, when I say it's not open source, that you need to make payment for, is just Excel. So when you get to Power BI, you'll be shown how to download and install it. It's open source, so you won't be making any payment. And then when you get to SQL too, it's the same thing. It's open source, so you won't be making any payment. Yes, they all have a premium package also that is a paid version, but for the purpose of the class, we used to make use of the free version. So you can do everything you need to do with the free version. So it's open source. It's just only Excel that perhaps you need to buy from Microsoft, or for those that reached out to me, you need to maybe get from me. So I want to also say here, if you have need for the Excel, I should be your first point of contact before any other source. So reach out to me, and then we can always make it happen from wherever you are. It's also a good way of bonding with my students and getting to know people better. Okay, so today we'll be doing, this is what we want to do. So we want to go into data entry in Excel. Data entry in Excel. So this is what we want to do. We want to create something like this kind of data. So this, I call this SS3 Mathematics Examinations Record. So under it, we have, this is the rec number. We have the first name, the middle name, the last name. And then we have the first test, the second test, the third test, and then the exams. So we've not done total. So I just want to show us how something like this can be created. Then when I just do the example, we'll come back and make use of these two so that we can move a bit faster. I don't want us dragging. Okay, so the first thing there is, we said SS3 Mathematics Examination Record. So we type that in. Remember, the active cell here is this cell that I've selected, which is cell A1. So that is to say, everything I'll be typing except I move to the next cell, which, by the way, if you want to move from one cell to the other horizontally, you use your tab button. If I press the tab button, it moves to the next cell horizontally. If I press the tab, you can see it keeps moving. But if I want to move to the next cell vertically, I use my enter button. So if I press enter, it moves downward vertically, you can see. But if I want to move horizontally, I use my tab button. Okay. So that being said, now let's enter the data. So we say the data is SS3 Mathematics Examination Record. All these people giving me feedbacks about my voice not being audible. Some persons say it's very clear. So can you do something else? I think somebody just gave suggestion here. He said with an earpiece, you will hear it clearly. So maybe try getting a earpiece or headset if that would help. Please, because I don't think there's anything wrong from my own end. You can see some other person say it's very clear from their end. So please do something about your audio. Okay. So SS3 mathematics examination record. Okay, so this is the heading. Then under it here, we want to have the first one here is rec number. The next one here is first name. The next one here is middle name. The next one here is last name. Then after that, here we have first test. Then we have second test. Third test. Okay. And then after that, we have exams. And then we have total. So these are the different columns you need. Okay. So remember, this is what our M is. So if you check here, if you look at this, you see that here, I have this SS3 mathematics examination, bigger, bolder, and it is being centralized. And I have all of these formatting done on it. So where I have the background color and the font color and all of this. So this is exactly what we want to do. So what do I do? First of all, I want to make sure you can see the write-ups are not showing clearly. Let's start from up here. I typed everything in A1, but now it's looking like I have the things typed running from A down to D. But in reality, that is not true. In reality, everything here is inside of A1. Though it appears this way, you can see if I click B1 on the formula bar here, there's nothing showing. But if I click A1, you can see I have the write-up showing on the formula bar. If I click C1, there's nothing. If I click D1, so that is showing you that all of these other cells are empty. So everything I have is here. And then for the part down, you can see the names are not showing fully. Like where I have first name, middle name, last name, they are not showing. So that brings us to what we call column width alignment. So now all these things I've written here, remember it's in A1. So if I come up here to align my column, A1 will now be where all of this will be in. So that will now make the column for A1 big. So what do I do? There are two ways you can align your column width. The first one is you can come here when your cursor changes to this. Let me see if I can increase my screen a bit so that, okay. So the first one is if I come here and I can drag, by dragging, I hold my shift down and I drag, or either shift or left click, and I drag. So when I drag to whatever point I want to drag to, I can release. You can see that's the first one. Another way I could do it would have been just to bring my cursor here. When it changes to this cross that has a two-pointed arrow, I just double click. So if I double click, it saves me the stress of dragging. It will just fit it exactly to the size of whatever content I have in that very column. So let me double click. You can see immediately I double click, it saves me the stress and just resizes it for me. Then it's the same thing here. Let me double click. So it has resized for me. Let me double click, it has resized. Let me double click, it has resized. Double click here, do the same here, do the same here. So here, it is enough, it's even bigger. So if I double click here, what is it going to do? It's going to shrink in because there's too much space. You can see it has shrunk in. The same thing here. If I double click, it's going to reduce the size because there's space. So that's what that is that. Then now, I don't want this being here. I want this to be the header. So it should be in the middle of everything here and not coming to be on one side. So what do? I'll copy from this cell. I'll drag it down to this cell where I have the last one. Copy to this point and then come under home. This reminds me, I saw somebody dropped a message in the group saying the assignment I gave yesterday is more of a punishment. Please, I don't intend to punish anybody. Please. So I think that was you misunderstanding the purpose of that assignment. So I just wanted to say that very clear here. Please, the assignment is not to punish anybody. So the purpose of that assignment is currently now I'm doing something. And what I want to use to do this is inside one of these ribbons. Is a ribbon under one of these tabs. But if I don't know where that function is, or I don't know what it does, how am I supposed to make use of it? And then this is not ICT fundamental class where I should begin to teach us, okay, this is your tab, this is your paste, it is used for this, then we write. I say, okay, this is this. No, if we want to do that, believe me, just explaining the tabs alone, that will take us multiple classes to do because I would need to. So that's why I always give it out as assignment. You just go do this thing, look at all the ribbons one after the other, what each of them does. It's for your own good. Tomorrow we may be doing something and I say, okay, for this thing, we want to do, let's say maybe a drop down. So I'll need everybody to go to data validation. And you now be there. You don't even know where data validation is. You're totally lost. So that is the reason why, please, everybody must engage that assignment. It is not meant to punish anybody. It is just meant to help us know the functions of each of these ribbons. I did not even say everything. I just said from home down to data tab. So that's just the first 5 there. So please, it's not for punishment. Okay, so now I've done this. I've copied from this point to this point. The next thing I want to do is I want to merge all of these cells into one cell. And I also want this content here to be in the middle, to be centered in the middle. So there is a ribbon I can use to do that. The ribbon is called Merge and Center. You can see it here, Merge and Center. So if I click on the drop down here, you can see I have other options of how to merge. This one is merge across, this one is merge cells, and then down here is unmerge. So assuming I've merged and I want to unmerge, I can use unmerge. Then what merge across does is, let me just show us a quick example. So if I copy from this point to this point, let's just copy everything here. And I come here and I say merge across. Let's see what's going to happen. Merge across. Have you seen what has happened? It has merged these cells, but it has not merged them. It has not turned them into one cell. Rather, what it has done is it has merged these cells horizontally. Now you can see how they appear. It has merged them horizontally. This is what merge across will do. So I still have the horizontal demarcations, but all the vertical demarcations has been taken out. By demarcations here, I'm talking about the grid lines. All the vertical grid lines have been taken off, but I still have my horizontal grid lines. They are all there. So that is what merge across will do. It will merge the cells across horizontally for you. Okay, so let's unmerge that. Okay, but now, if I say merge cells, which is the next one, this is what merge cells is going to do. Merge cell will merge the whole selection into one cell for you. You can see now the whole selection is just one cell. So both horizontal or vertical, the grid lines are no longer there. You can see, just as I have one cells around here, That's how this one now is one cell. That's merged everything into one cell. Okay, so that is what merge cells does, while merge across merges cells horizontally. Okay, let's unmerge. So now let's come back here. So for this one, what I'm going to be using is merge and center. Why am I using merge and center? I want everything in this selection to be merged into one cell, and then let the right top be centered. That's be put in the middle. So I'll use my merge and center. You can see what I now have. This is what I have when I do my merge and center. Then the next thing is I want to increase the size. So I still have this selected. So all I'll just do is I'll come here. So I can either use this or I can just come here and give it the size I want. So I want to use 18. So 18. Then I want let me give it a background color. So the background color is what we call fill color. So this fill color is not going to affect the font. It's only going to affect the background. So if I use my fill color, I want to use color purple. You can see the font is still in black, just as it was. But now I want to change the font color also. I want to change it to white. So I'm using the font color now. I'll change my font color to white so you can see. Then I also want to make that the right top bold. I also want to underline it. Let me underline it also. Okay, so this is looking much more like what I want. But now, if you see, the column for my rec number, after I moved this to the middle, is now too big. That was because I had this whole right top in here. That was why this part was this big. So now what do? I'll need to come back and realign that column width. So I'll come back here and I'll double click. Immediately you can see it has realigned that column width for me. Okay, so I also want to format this second row also. So for this row, I want to give them size 14. I also want to make it bold. And then let me give it, let's see, what was the color we're making use of? Let's see. Okay, green, background green, and then font yellow. Okay. So I want to give it a fill color of green. I think it's this green. Okay, let's use this. And then font color yellow. Okay, font color yellow. So, okay, now you can see, just because I increased the size of this right top, now you can see that the columns are now too small for the right tops. You can see the rec number is not showing well. The first name is not showing full and all. So that means I need to go back and realign these columns for them to be able to appear better. So I'll come back here, realign this. Remember, I'm doing it from up. The lines in between. That's why I'm doing so I'll just double click. So I said you can either double click or you can drag, whichever one works for you. So doing that for everybody. Okay, so now I think it's looking more like what I want. Okay, so I believe at this point, everybody is doing along with me. At least as we are seeing, we are also trying to practice. But I think the best is you listening and getting it. Then you can now try doing. So the next thing is I want to give them rec number. So let's see the original sheet. So we have rec number from 1001 down to 1050. So that is to say we have 50 students here. So 50 students. Okay. So how do I do this? There are two different ways I can do this. The first one is I can come here and enter 1001, then move downward, enter 1002, which is the next person. Of course, I don't want to keep doing that down to 50, but I had to do the first two so that I can show Excel what I'm doing. You can see I copied 1 and 2 together first. Please, let's take note of this. So for me to drag this down, for Excel to continue this numbering for me, I had to write the first 2 so that I can now come here. That's the bottom right. When I put, you see a black box. When I copy both together, you see a black box here. So this black box, when I bring my cursor there, it changes to one black cross sign. So is that sign I will now hold my left click down or my shift down and begin to drag. So as I'm dragging, you can see Excel is doing the numbering for me. So I can know what number I am. If I should stop here now, this is 10, 1010. So, but I need 50, so I'll keep going down. And the moment I get to 50, okay, so this is 50, I'll just remove my hand. And you can see immediately Excel will do the numbering for me automatically. So let's go up. You can see. So I now have from 1 to 50 numbered for me by Excel. Okay, so this is the first pattern you can use. The other pattern you can use is to use the formula called sequence. Formula called sequence. So before I start making use of formula, let me state the ground rules. So in Excel, anytime you want to perform either a calculation, or let's just use the word function. Anytime you want to perform a function, you need to give Excel heads up, or you kind of like give it an alert that, oh, the next thing I want to do, please, is a function. And how do we do this? Okay, thank you very much for the correction. Somebody just saw my examination that the correction was wrong. So let me predict that. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I said anytime you want to do any function. So by function, what I mean is I want to impute something, but I want Excel to perform a function on it. Or I want to make use of a formula. That's also a function. What I need to do first is to put the equals to sign in that cell where I want to do whatever it is I want to do. The moment I put the equals to sign, Excel automatically gives the signal that the next thing I want to do is a function. So what happens is if I fail to put this equals to sign, whatever I do, Excel sees it as a text. It doesn't perform any function on it. For example, if I come to this cell and I say 2 plus 2, and I press enter, Excel will just move to the next cell downward and will leave my 2 plus 2 there for me. Because as far as Excel is concerned, all I just did here was I entered a text. I did not ask it to perform any function. So that's what we mean. So anytime you want to perform a function or you want to make use of a formula, the first rule is you hit your equals to sign. Then now if I now do that 2 plus 2 and I press that enter, Excel will no longer leave 2 plus 2 there for me. Rather, it will add 2 plus 2 and it will give me 4. Here on my formula bar, I can always see what gave me this 4. You can see it here, 2 plus 2. But if I click out of it, of course, the formula bar is nothing is there because there's nothing here. But anytime I click on it, the formula bar would always give you the interpretation of what gave you whatever you have there. In as much as it is not a text, it is a function. You can always see whatever gave you that answer or whatever you have there on your formula bar. Okay. So that being said, we can move ahead. So I said the second way we can do that arrangement is by using the sequence formula. So if I say equals to, and I bring the formula sequence. So this is the formula sequence. So you say it returns a sequence of numbers. Now this formula has syntax. So in Excel, there's something we call syntax. Syntax are this, anytime you bring up a formula, you see it has this syntax down here. The syntax is meant to guide you on the usage of that very formula. And in every syntax, you will see that after each command, there's always a comma before the next command. So that's to show you that the moment you put the first thing, for you to move to the next thing, you need to put a comma for it to move to the next one. If not, Excel will still be whatever you're putting in here will still be counted for the first one you were still working on. So if you put the second thing and you need to move to the next one, you have to use another comma, and so on and so forth. So for this very syntax, you can see I have the first thing I have here is rows. So by rows here, what Excel means is you want to do a sequence for how many rows. And now I have 50 students from 1001 to 1050. So 50 students. So that means I need 50 rows. So I'm going to put 50 as the number of my rows. I'm going to put 50 as the number of my rows. Then I'll hit my comma. The moment I hit my comma, you see it moves to the next command on the syntax. So the next command here is columns. So now you've given it the number of rows you want. How many columns is it going to do this numbering for you? In this case, you can see that these columns comes in a square bracket. You can see it here, it's in a square bracket. The same with the next argument here, or the next function here, which is start, is also in a square bracket. The same with the next one here, which is step, is also in a square bracket. What this means is whenever you're using a formula and you see some commands in a square bracket, what that simply means is those commands are optional. You can choose to ignore them and it still would not affect your formula. So you can ignore them based on what you're trying to do. So if I don't need to make use of that, I can just ignore it. So if I hit a comma here without putting anything, it will automatically move to the next one without me giving it columns. And if I don't put any column here, automatically Excel would assume that, okay, it's just one column I want to work with. So it will just leave it that way for me. So, but let me just put the number of columns, 1. So I hit my comma. Now, it's asking me start. Where do you want to start from? So for this start now, you're trying to tell Excel what is the first number in that sequence you want to create. So the first number here is we want to start from 1001. That's the first number we want to start with, 1001. So that's our start. And the moment I give it that start, the next thing I will do is I hit my comma. It will now ask me for steps. So the step now is after this 1001, what should be the number of steps before the next number? So now, assuming I want to be doing in 5, so after 1001, I want 1005, and then 1010. That's in the difference of 5 steps. This is where I'm going to tell Excel to do that. Give me a step of 5, or give me a step of 2, or give me a step of 10. Whatever step I tell it is what it's going to give to me. But in this case, I don't need any step. I just need a step of 1. I just need a step of 1. So what will I do? I just say 1, step of 1, and then I'm done with this formula. So the moment I close this and I hit enter, you can see automatically Excel has given me 50 rows of that numbering from where I said it should start from. So if I go down, you can see immediately it gets to the 50th row, which is 1050. That is where it stops. Immediately it gets there, that is where it stops. Okay. Now, I'm getting a lot of feedbacks. Okay, I think let me take this part again. It's looking like some people are lost from the feedbacks I'm getting. Okay, so what did I say? I said the first one is you can just do your normal numbering on your own. So I have 50 students, and the red number is from 1001 down to 1050. So all I just need to do is enter my 1001. So because if I come down here and begin to drag from here, Excel is just going to be repeating the 1001 for me, because Excel does not understand what I'm trying to do. So for me to show Excel the pattern of movement I want, I would just have to come here and do my 1001 and then move down again. do my 1002. That way Excel is seeing the pattern of my movement. So now I can now just copy both together. First, I'll copy both together, and then I'll now bring my cursor here, the bottom right, and then when it changes to this black cross sign, I'll now start dragging. So I drag to whatever number I want to stop at. So in this case, I want to stop at 50, and this is 50. The moment I release, you can see it has done the numbering for me. So I don't need to be doing it one after the other. I said this is the first method. Then the second method, I said, was me using a formula called sequence. So sequence is used to, you can see here, sequence. So it is used to return a sequence of numbers. So the moment I bring up this formula sequence, so when you see the formula you're looking for, so anytime you're looking for a formula, you begin to, once you enter your equals to, and you begin to type, Excel will be giving you options of formulas that start with that very letter. So you see when I have only S, these are all the formulas that start from S, beginning from SA. The moment I add E, it streamlines it to the ones that start with SE. Then if I just add my Q, it showed me that this is the only formula that has that. So now the way I can bring up this formula for it to be active is I either double click on it or I press my tab button. So if I double click, it comes up, you can see, or you just press your tab button whenever the formula you're looking for has been selected. So the moment you do this, now I said under it now, you're going to see the syntax. The syntax here is what is meant to direct you on the usage of that formula. So now, under the syntax, the first thing I have is row. So Excel is asking me, how many rows are you looking for? So if I just want from the only 10 names, that means I'll just give it just 10 rows. All these people saying zoom your screen. My screen is big enough now. Can you still not see it? Okay, yes. So if your version is low, if your version is, so this is part of those things. If your version is low, you will not have sequence on it. I think sequence is from, if I'm not wrong, maybe from 2021 or 2019. But I know anything below, I'm not sure if 2019 has it, but I think it does. So you're not going to find sequence on it, but definitely you'll not find sequence in 2016 or any other older one. But I'm not very sure about 2019. Okay, yes, somebody here says it's from 2019. So you have it in 2019, you also have it in 2021. So this is part of those things. As we keep moving, you would see that. So Excel, what Microsoft does is every version, they add new formulas. So there are formulas we'll be treating. That is what I was trying to explain to us yesterday, that you may not have on older versions. Okay. The person using Office 365, that you say your sequence is not coming up, that means your Office 365 is not genuine. There's no how you'd have Office 365 and not, is what I'm using now. I'm using Office 365 and this is sequence. So, okay, let's not overflog that. So I said the first thing here is give it the number of rows. So in this case, we need 50 rows because we are numbering from 1001 down to 1050. So if I give it the number of rows I need, the next thing I put my comma is asking me for the number of columns. So if I want this numbering to be done on 2 different columns or 3 different columns or 4 different columns, this is why I decide that. But in this case, I want it just on this column. So just 1 column. So I put my number of column, just 1. And then where should it start from? This is where I need to tell it the first number I want it to start the sequence from. And the first number is 1001. So the moment I give it the first number I should start the sequence from, it will now ask me, how many steps should it take? That is to say, after 1001, what should be the next number? How many steps should it take? So I just needed to take just 1 step. So after 1001, move to 1002. So just a step of 1. So that is where I'll say 1 step, and then I'll just close my bracket. So the moment I hit my enter now, you can see Excel does the rest for me. So it has done the sequence from 1001 down to the total number of rows I asked for, which is 50 rows. So you can see there. So I want to believe at this point now, nobody has issues with this again. Okay, so let's move ahead. So the next thing is first name. So the first name, I'm going to use my names here. So the first name, so let me use my name, Ike, middle name, Kano, last name. Okay, so these are my three names. So as a good student that I am, first test, I did very well. So each of the tests is over 10 and the exam is over 70. So we have three tests. That would be 10, 10, 10. Exam is over 70. So giving us a total of over 100. Okay, so first test, I did very well. I did a 9 over 10. Second test, I became a bit playful. So I did a 5 over 10. And third test, I had to sit up a bit and I came up to 7 over 10. Then in the exams, I scored 43 over 70. Okay. So after this, I need to keep giving the names. And so these data, I have to enter them manually because there's no way. Of course, these students wrote the exams. These students wrote the exams, so I need to enter their names and whatever score they had manually. Then after I've done this, where I can now start automating things is in the part for total. So that now is where I'm going to move over to the ready-made sheet. So let's assume we've entered all the data we want, everything, and then we have this ready-made sheet here. Okay, so this is everything. This is the first test, this is the second test, this is the third test. Okay, let me adjust these columns. Okay, before I move forward, I think we've gotten to the part for our first question. Remember, I said the class is broken into two. After the first 45 minutes, we take questions, and then for 15 minutes, and then we continue for the next 45 minutes, and maybe, and then take questions for the last 15 minutes again. Okay, so it's 9:15 now, it's time for questions. So please, if you have questions over what we've done so far, or over anything we've done right from yesterday, so we have the next 15 minutes to take questions. So please raise your hand in the participant area so that I can ask you to unmute and then you can talk. Please don't put down questions in the chat area. Raise your hand. I also want to hear our beautiful voices. So let me not be the only one talking. Okay. So I'm waiting for hands to be raised. I've not seen any hand raised. Okay, Melitus. Melitus, you can unmute.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you for the lesson so far.
You're welcome.
To make a request, can we have this data set so that we can be flowing with you when you begin to do other computations?
This data set, I always like everybody to do it on their own as part of classwork. So that I want to see if you can create the fill color, the font size, and all of those so that you play around with those things. Also the column alignment. But now this is what I'm going to do just to make it a bit easier. So I'll send this data set to the group for us to use for the purpose of this class. But please, it will do you a lot of good at your own spare time to try to recreate this on your own. Try recreating it so that you can also be able to do all of these things that I've done. So I will drop the data set immediately after the class in the group for us. But please, at your own spare time, everybody should try to recreate the data set so that you can be sure you can do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Adeoyo Obanla, you can unmute.
Hello, good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
So, Thank you for the lecture so far. It's really insightful. But please, I don't have a question. I want to have a request. I don't know if I can be permitted, sir.
You said you, sorry, your, this thing is breaking a bit. What did you say?
Oh, I said I don't have a question for now, but I want to have a request to make. I don't know if I'm
Okay,
permitted to make a request.
okay, no problem, go ahead.
Okay. The major purpose why I signed up for this data analysis class is for me to be able to boost my analytics skill, because currently I'm an accountant and I work with a large data set. So currently now I'm faced with the challenges of analyzing a set of data, because the way the data is being extracted from my ERP is quite confusing. So please, I don't know if I can chat you up after now, if you could help out, sir.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with what we are doing in class. So that is your, so if you were in class yesterday, you would have heard when I did address that we try to move at a certain pace so that beginners can also be brought up to your level. So for someone like you are working with Excel already,
Yeah.
at least you have idea. So that notwithstanding, that's your personal work. So currently I have
Yes.
I have a lot on my plate. There are some persons I still have installation to. So if I tell you to chat me up, honestly, I don't think I would have that time to. But what I'll do is, you have Mr. Kim's number, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can chat Mr. Kim up. But in the case where Mr. Kim is not available, you can still chat me up. But I don't want to disappoint you because honestly, currently I have a lot on my plate. So maybe
All
try
right,
Mr. Kim. If he's not available, then you can still reach out to me. Then I'll see I can
All right.
schedule that.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, 18.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
All right, I wanted to use tab key to move horizontally, move from one Excel to another horizontally, then also enter key. So I made a comment that you can also equally use the arrow keys, the right and left arrow key, up and down arrow key to move.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Oh, you're
Is that
asking
correct?
or you've used it?
I'm asking.
Are you not with the system there?
Yes, I'm using a system. It does. It's moving. It's
moving, right?
Yes.
That means it's correct now if it's moving. So I thought maybe you were trying to tell us that, okay, you can also
Then
use
secondly, no, it's moving.
that. Okay, so secondly,
Okay.
what
Then
again?
also this, the application of these background colors, for professionalism and making your work more appealing and tidy. I think it would be nice to, when using colors, use a color in a kind of a gradient pattern. Like you use the purple here, the next one should be a lighter part of that purple to make it more unique and appealing to the audience when you are doing your presentation.
Okay, sorry, we are not having a UI UX class or graphics design where we are particular about colors. So the only thing we are doing here, I'm just trying to show us, of course, the color choice would always be left with whoever is doing the work. So my own part is I'm just trying to show you how to apply a background color and how to apply all of these effects to it. So I have no particular interest in the color gradient or whatever color you're using. Etim, are you with me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Next person, Jude. Jude, please unmute.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate this class. I appreciate what you are offering. This is just the second day. even though I use Excel, but I've learned something today. Thank you for it. I want to appeal to everybody in the class. I don't know if I'm permitted to do that. It's just like a suggestion and observation. I want to suggest to the management of the academy. There's finished doing online also. Once it is time on the dot, attendance is being recorded. So that forces people to join on time. So, and you cannot argue it, you cannot deny it. It is an international let me leave that out. It is a program that once, like now, our program is supposed to start at 8:30. So if you log in 8:30, it start counting for you. So you have 10 minutes grace to log in before the time. So between 10 minutes and the time, you are logged in. And once it is that time, you start counting. You can't argue it because you will see it in your grades. So by the time it is over and class is over, how many minutes you were active, it will be recorded. And it forms part of attendance. And attendance carries 10 marks for every module. Attendance carries 10 marks for every module. So that will make people come is one. Then two, I also want to appeal to everybody in this class. Please, I don't want you to get me wrong, but I think this is the cheapest you can get this course. This is the cheapest we can get this course. So don't let us trivialize it. There are too many distractions with chatting, this, that. I can't hear you, I can hear you, you can't hear me. Let's take this course very seriously. And it will help us. We'll all benefit. If 2 days I have gained something from what I was using before, I'm super excited and looking forward to the things I will gain by the time this program is over. So please, I am begging the participants, let's avoid these distractions and let us get a very stable internet access so that these distractions will be reduced. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to believe everyone has heard you, but please, as it concerns the attendance, we have a reason why we don't make attendance mandatory. So we just leave that to everyone to do. If you like, you attend. That's also the reason why we dropped the recorded video. If we had wanted to make attendance mandatory, then possibly we'll not be dropping the recorded video so that once you miss the class, you miss out totally. But we also understand some persons may be in situations where sometimes they are not able to attend the live class and all of that. So please, we are a bit flexible on that part. What we are not flexible on is the assignment, doing assignments and projects. That one is mandatory, except if the student does not need a certificate from us. But for attendance, we don't. Okay, so I said for the assignment, I will drop a link on Monday that we are to use to submit the assignment. So please, for those that, okay, I think I'll take 2 more questions from the 2 people left here. Inyambura, please unmute so that we can move back to class.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sir. Mine is just to still request different participants here. We need to understand that we are in different categories of expertise when it comes to whatever our lecturers are teaching us. Some of us might be gurus in introductory part of probably Excel and any other training that you are going to get. So I think I can just ask members who are here, participants, let us be patient with each other. In as much as you might have exposure, there is someone who is having exposure for the first time through these classes. So I kindly request that everyone has to be patient with others. And even some of us who might have experienced Excel in different platforms. We are still learning and gaining something new. Like for me, I did not know how to use the sequence method.
Okay, thank you very much.
The drag method. Exactly. So kindly I ask that we be patient with each other. And of course, even the lecturers that are giving us that, let us be patient with them. They know how to do it. They have done it. We are not the first cohort. We can only be better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So part of this were the things I was trying to outline yesterday for us, that please, everybody should be patient because we'll all get to the part that you're interested in. Okay. I was expecting questions around what we've done in class, but everybody today is giving us suggestions and this thing. Latifat, I want to believe your own is question around what we've done yesterday and today.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Good evening. It's evening.
I'm well done
Overnight.
for all these things, sir. Sorry, good evening. Sorry. So please, my question is
Hello.
hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I said when somebody told you that the examination was wrong the other time, I discovered that you were not able to edit it from the this color that you've already done. So you went to the function space to put the X. So my question is it that after you might have edited and do the coloring and everything, it's like privileged to make any correction at that place again? I don't know if you get my question. Okay. I discovered that you inserted the X from the function, this thing,
yes, the
function. Exactly.
Okay, so
because I'm not using the system, so I'm just covering the class. So I don't know if it's not possible to edit after we might have done the coloring and everything, the editing.
So you can always edit even from where you did this thing from. So I just felt it was easier for me to do it from there. That was why I did it from there. So I could always have done it from this side also.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So please, those are the kind of questions I want. The ones that concerns what we did. Okay, Bossede, you're the last, and we'll go back to class. Bossede, you can unmute.
Thank you for the teaching.
You're welcome.
In this class. Thank you. I want to ask this particular question. When you are about to write the serial number or the sequence, after pressing equal to sign, the sequence does not come out. I cannot see it there. How do we do that? When we want to use a sequence to write our numbers.
When you enter equals to, you begin to type the name of the formula. So as you keep typing, Excel gives you suggestions then. But if you've typed and typed and typed and you see that the name is not coming, that means the version you're using does not have that formula.
So after pressing is equal sign, what am I to write?
You type S, sequence is SE, then Q, U. So the moment you keep typing, Excel is supposed to bring them out for you to, but if it doesn't, and you see that it's not appearing, that means the version you're using does not have that very formula.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. So please, let's move on. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to do the total for them, to do the total. So, of course, if I'm doing the total, is a function I want Excel to do. So that means I'll start with my equals to sign. So what do I do? If I say 4, the first test here is 4, and I say plus 8, and I say plus 3, and I say plus 22. So these are the different score. First test for this very student, the first student is 4. the second test is 8, the third test is 3, and the exam is. So if I press enter, this will give me the total for this very student. But now there's a problem with what just happened. If I'm to run this down, let me just run it to this point. You see that what Excel is going to do is it's going to keep repeating 37, 37, 37 for me. Why is it doing that? Because Excel is repeating what I did here in all of this. So that means there's a way I'm supposed to have done it. And the way I'm supposed to have done it was to have done what we call cell referencing. So now cell referencing is you showing Excel the particular pattern of your movement so that Excel can keep replicating that movement for you. So if I'm referencing cells now, what I would do is I would say equals to, so instead of typing this 4, I would rather select 4, or I would type the cell address. So this is E3. So if I say equals to, I say E3, you can see that cell has been selected. Plus, so I could either type the cell address or I could just click on the cell. So plus this, plus this, plus this. So if I press enter now, it's the same 37, the same correct answer. But the difference now is I referenced cells. And because I referenced cells, if I now drag this down, so I can drag down manually this way, keep dragging down, or I could just bring my cursor here and double click. So if I double click from here, it's going to autofill for everybody down to the last person for me. You can see it there. So what this has done is that it has repeated that same thing I did for this first person for every other person. So here you can see, let me double click so that you see. What gave me 37 is the combination of all these that gave me that 37. But if I click here now, you see Excel has. So why did Excel move this way? Because Excel saw my movement for the first person, and it just repeated that movement for me as I kept going down. So if I come down to the next person, you see it's the same thing. So by default, this is the normal way Excel moves. So we call this in Excel relative cell movement. Excel sees your movement and repeats that movement for you. So whether I'm moving horizontally, like in this case, or I'm moving vertically, whatever is the pattern of movement, that is the same way Excel is going to move for me. So that is how you can get your total by just, so this one way. I could also use a formula. So because I'm adding, addition has a formula, so it's called sum. So I could use the formula called sum. So you can see it here, sum. So when I have the formula selected, I could just double click on it and it will come up. So sum here is telling me just give it the number. So because I still want it to do the same for other people, so I would rather reference cells. So sum this, comma, this, comma, this, comma, and this. So because this is a formula, I need to close my bracket at the end of it, because a formula will come with an open bracket. So whenever you're done, you need to close that bracket. So now I've closed my bracket. If I hit enter, you can see it's the same 37. And if I should run this down, you can see the answer is still correct for every other person, as you can see. Then I could also, if I don't want to be using the comma, 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 since I'm summing things within the same range, I could just say sum from here, hold my shift down and drag it to this point. We just say sum everything from E3 down to H3. And I'll just close my bracket and I'll hit enter. So you can see it either ways, it's still giving me the right answer. So please, referencing of cells is very, very important. Let us always remember that you need to reference cells. So from this, let me just do some other basic calculations with this data set. So let's say we want to do, let's say division. So let me just call this division. So what am I dividing? So let's say I want to divide exam divided by first test. So that would be equals to, I'll just say exam here, the score here in exam divided by first test. So that's how you do division in Excel. I just wanted to show us basic other functions, division. So if I press enter, of course, you can see. So it's telling me 22 divided by 4 is 5.5. And if I don't need, so let me run it down for others so you can see. So if I don't need all of these decimals, I want it to be whole. All I'll just do, I'll come to this number section under the home tab, use my decrease decimal. So if I click on this decrease decimal, you can see it's going to decrease it to whole numbers for me. So this is, instead of 5.5, you can see it has approximated this to 6 and so on and so forth. So now I have whole numbers. Okay, so that's for division. If you're doing a division, then if you're also doing subtraction, let's say we want to do a subtraction. What are we subtracting? We want to subtract total minus exam. So total minus exam. So that is going to be equals to, so this will be total here. So minus exam. So if I press enter, you can see 37 minus 22. It's giving me 15. And if I should run this down also, you can see it has done the same for everybody. So how about multiplication? If I want to do multiplication, so what are we multiplying? Let's say we are multiplying first test times the third test. So equals to, so first test times third test. So if I press enter, you can see the answer there is 12. And if I should run this down for every other person, you can see it also. But however, multiplication also has a formula. So the formula is called product. So I can also use the formula for multiplication to do my multiplication product. So I just give it this number here is what am I multiplying. So in this case, it was first test times the third test. So I close my bracket because it's a formula and I hit enter. And you can see it's the same answer. Okay. So I'm going to take everything out from this division part because this was actually not part of what I intended for us to do. I just wanted to show us that. Yeah. Okay, so coming back here, the next thing I want us to do is, how do I add a new column into an existing one? How do I add a new column into an existing one? Let's say after this rec number, I wanted to add a column where I'll now put, let's say maybe, let me see, what other information? What information? Okay, let's say I want to add gender. After, so in between year and year, I want to add a new column where I want to put in gender. So how do I go about that? So the rule is that if you want a column in between A and B, so what you do is you select B. So you always select the cell in front. Remember, I'm not selecting from inside of the cell, I'm selecting from up where I have this alphabet representing that column. So I select B because I want the column in between A and B. So I'm going to select B. And then when I select B, what I'll do is I'll come to where I have the cell area. You can see the cell area under your home tab, the cells area. So I'll just use this insert. So if I click on insert, it's going to ask me if it should insert cells or it should. So I'll just click on insert cells. As you can see, it has opened up a new column for me right there in that place. So which is what I want. Okay, so I can now come here and call this gender. Gender, you can see. So I can now maybe start giving them gender, male, female, and so on. So how do I delete also? I could also delete by that same pattern. So if I want to delete, all I need to do is just select the cell I want to delete, come over here and just click on delete. As you can see, the cell is gone. So this using the cells area here is one way. Another way you can do it is I want to input a new cell. I could just come here, then right click. If I right click, I'll get this pop-up, and you can see here in this pop-up, I have this place here, insert. So if I click on insert here, of course, it's still going to do the same thing for me. And the same way, if I come back here and I right click, I also have delete. If I click on delete, you can see it taken out. Okay, so that's for creating new columns, creating and deleting columns. Okay, now how about for rows? So that is also applicable for rows. I can add new rows. I can also delete rows. Let me say maybe there was a student I missed, and I want to add the student in between 5 and 6. So that is to say I want to create a new number 6, and then the 6th name should just move to number 7. That's by the row number. So all I'll do is select the whole row from here, from where you have the row number. That's where you select from. So you can see I selected it from here. So immediately I do that, I could either come here and do the insert from here, or I could just right click. So if I right click, I can also use my insert from here. So now you see I have a whole new row to do whatever it is I want to do. Yeah. Okay, so if I want to delete too, I want to delete also, it's the same thing, select from there, and then of course, delete. Okay, so I want to believe we are all on the same page to this point. Can we move further? Can we move further? Can we move further? I want to get as many years as possible so that we can move. Okay. Okay, I think that's enough years. So let's move further. No, please, it's not time for question. If you have a question, please write it down. When we get to the question part again, you can ask. So for now, I cannot take questions until we get to that part again. So when once is 10, 10, or 10, 15, we'll take questions again. Okay, so now the next thing I want us to do now, we've talked about creating and inserting new columns and rows, and also deleting columns and rows. The next thing I want us to talk about is what we call freezing columns, or freezing top columns, or freezing rows. So what I mean by this is, so for example now, this data set is a bit simple. So maybe we're using a complex data set, and I decided to scroll down. So let me scroll down. I decided to scroll down. So at some point, maybe I have multiple columns here with these numbers. I may not know which one is first test, which one is second test, which one is exam, or the names here, I may not know this. So I want those headers to be freezed so that I can always know the column I'm working in, even if I'm going downward. So there are two ways I can do that. The first one is you freezing the top row alone. So I could just freeze only the top row. But if I want to freeze the top row, in this very case, what is going to happen is I need to first of all make what I want freeze to be my top row. And in this case, this is the top row, SS3 mathematics examination. This is not what I want freeze. What I want freeze is the row where I have rec number, first name, middle name. So what do? I could easily just hide this row. So that also would take me to the part where you can also hide rows. You can also hide columns. You can hide and unhide rows. You can also hide and unhide columns. So if I want to hide this row, for example, all I'll do is just like we did, select it from here, right click. So I have it here, hide. You can see that row has been hidden. So somebody may not even know I have a row like that in my data set. So you can see it's not visible at all. I can also hide columns. So let's say I want to hide the total score, or maybe the exam score. I don't want people seeing it. or maybe even exam and total. I want to hide these two rows. So just select and then right click and hide. You can see they are gone. So you can no longer see them. It doesn't look like, so that is that. You can hide rows, you can also hide columns within your work. So if you want to unhide, the same way, you just come here. When you bring your cursor to that part, you see that the cursor changes to this. This is not the normal cross it has been showing up. You see the normal cross the way it is, but you make sure we move it to that point where it changes to this. So this cross has two lines, two parallel lines in between. That is the one you're looking for. So when it changes to this, all you do is you either double click or you right click again. When you right click, you now do unhide. So that's it. But when you do, you can see it's only unhiding one. So that means for me to unhide the other one, I still need to do the same thing again, unhide, to get both out. It's the same thing also for the row. You can see when I come here, I can also right click and unhide, but I don't want to unhide that because I want this to be my top row. So now I want to freeze this so that as I'm moving, this is freezed. It's not moving with me. So where do we have that option? We have that option under the View tab. The View tab, you can see under the View tab, there's a section here called Windows. So this section called Window is where I have the freeze panes. You can see there, freeze panes. So if I click on this freeze panes, I have different options of freezing. This one is telling me freeze panes. If I just click on this is what is going to happen is it's going to freeze the top column and the first row. Sorry, the top row and the first column. That's what it's going to. So let's see. So if I say freeze panes, if I choose that, see what it has done. It has divided the work for me. So now if I should scroll down, let's see what it will freeze. You can see it has freezed from the first 10, what is it called? First 10 rows has been freezed. So now everything under can just be moving in this way. You can see, but that first 10 up is being freezed. So that is what freeze panes will do. But if this is not the way I want it, let me come here. Let me unfreeze. And then I just want only the top row to be freezed. Now you can see I've freezed my top row. So if I move down, this is the result of what I'm going to have. Everything will be moving except for that top row. You can see everything is moving except for the top row, as you can see. So that is what happens when you freeze the top row. And the same way, you can also freeze the top. You can also freeze the top, the first column. So this one is useful if I want to be moving to this way and I want to make sure I know the rect number I'm working with at all times. So I can also freeze my first column. Okay. So another way you can also freeze is to pick a cell. So if I come here, now I have everything. I want everything from this point to this point to be freezed, not moving. So I could decide that. I could just come, let's say, to the 15th name, which is Toke. So this is where Toke is. I could just select this cell here where Toke is, and then come to freeze panes and just ask it to freeze panes for me. So now, what Excel would do is that if I now start freezing, well, coming. Let me be sure I've unfreezed. This. So if I select this, so now if I start scrolling from that point where I selected, you will see that it has come down to that point. So everything under it is freeze, but everything from that point is, or everything from where I selected is freeze, but everything under. So I could have taken that selection down and it will still work for me. So let's see. Let me unfreeze first. Unfreeze. So let's say we want to bring it down to this point where Tokyo is. So you can see from this point now. So let's go down. You see everything from that point. You can see. So I can decide where I want it to be freeze to. And that would happen that way for me. Okay. So that is that with freezing and unfreezing of panes. So let me unfreeze everything. Okay, so the next thing I want us to do now is locking and unlocking of worksheets. So let me unhide one that was hidden here. So locking and unlocking of worksheets. So if I'm doing a work on a file and I don't want somebody having access to it, maybe my colleagues also want to take a look, but I don't want them, let's say maybe this result sheet now, I don't want anybody changing anything here. So I could lock this worksheet such that if I send it to you to go through, you can, or even if you have access to this computer, you cannot change anything here because I would set a password to it for you to be able to edit anything here. So currently you can see everything here can be edited. Everything here can be edited. You can see everything scores every. So if I want to do that, there are different ways I could do that. First is the simplest way is I could just come here, select the whole sheet. This is if I want to lock the whole sheet. I'll just select the whole sheet, then right click, and I'll use format cells. The moment I click on format cells, I'll not come to number, rather I'll use protection. So it's telling me locked. So I'll leave it there, I'll press OK. So I've selected everything here is locked. Okay. So now after I've done that, I could now come to my review tab. So if I come here and I ask it to protect this sheet, of course, it's going to tell me if it should protect all. I say yes, all the unlocked and unlocked. And then I'll press OK. Now what has happened is this sheet is protected. Okay, no. Come in. So okay, sorry, I didn't tick it. So okay. So now if I come here and I now say protect sheets, so locked and unlocked, let's leave it with unlocked. Okay. So let's see. Is that? So you can see now, there is nowhere here you can make any adjustment or changes. So the cell or chart you are trying to change is on a protected sheet. So you need to unprotect this sheet for you to have access to it. Okay. So the same thing, every place you come here to do anything is going to, so except this sheet is unprotected, you cannot have access to it. So now I have unprotected the sheet. But now I want just a section of this locked, not everything. So how do I do that? First of all, lock everything. So I'll first of all, make sure everything is locked. And then I'll now come and decide the part I want unlocked. Let's say I want this part here unlocked. So you cannot edit the scores, but you can edit the names and the rec number. So I'll select the part I want unlocked. I'll select this whole part. Then I'll right click again. Come here to format cells. Then this time I will tell it, I will uncheck this locked. So that means the part I've selected now, I have unlocked it. Then I'll press OK. So now after I've done this now, I can now come to my protect sheet. So when I come to protect sheet, you can see it here. So I want to add a password this time. So let me add a password so that nobody without the password can access it. So 1, 2, 3, and I press OK. So ask me to reconfirm that password. 1, 2, 3. So okay. So now what has happened is on this part of this work, you cannot edit. Nothing can be edited there except you unprotect by putting in the password. But on this other part that I kept open, let's see, let's try to edit this. You can see I can still edit things within this part. As you can see, it's editable, everything here. But everything on this other part, you cannot do anything to it. Okay. So I want to believe that was gotten very well. I want to believe we are following. Please, if you are following, let me just see there in the chat area. If you are following, everything we've done so far, we are following. Let me be sure we are not confused. Okay. I've seen one person that said he's lost too. These ones are basic now. Everything we are doing today, these are still very basic. Okay, so you can keep your question. We'll get to that part for the question. Okay, so the next thing, let me check our outline so that I'll see what we've not touched yet before I move over to another part. So I want to believe we all have the course outline. There's a course outline for this course. Okay, we've done this introduction to data analytics overview, and yes, we've done this part yesterday. So I think we're on this part, basic. So we've done the Excel environment workbook. We've done this yesterday. Creating and saving workbook. We've done this. Correcting the content of a cell. I believe we all know how to do that. Changing columns and row width. Yes, we've done that. Inserting rows. Yes. Deleting. Yes, we've done that. Hiding and unhiding. We've done that. So worksheet. Merging cells. We've done that. Copy and paste. Okay. Freezing and unfreezing. So locking and unlocking. Okay, so I think we've done everything here. We've done everything on this part. So let's see, what's the next thing? Addition, subtraction. Okay, we've done everything here also, except for the counts, count A, counts blank, max and min. So let's do the counts A, counts blank, max and min. And those are the ones we've not done, so that we can see how far we can go today. So for count is a formula used to return count. But now what the formula does is it counts only cells that contain numbers. So if the cell does not contain a number, it doesn't take account of it. While for count A, it counts everything in as much as that cell is not empty, it will count it. So that means if I have a comma, something as small as a comma or full stop inside of that cell, it's still going to return a count of it for me. So the cell needs to be empty for it not to count it. Then for count blank, that one counts only empty cells. So let me do it here. So this is, let's use this. Oh, we've not unprotected this sheet. Protect so that we can. Okay, so let's call this one counts. So let's call this count A. Let's call this count blank. Of max, min. Okay. So yeah, for count, I say it counts only cells that contain numbers. So that means if the cell contains any other thing other than number, it will not count it for us. So equals to, so this is the basic count. So as we move forward in the class, you see other types of counts. You can see them lined up here, different types. Okay, so we are using count here. So I just need to tell it the value I'm counting or the array. So let me give it an array. Let's say from this point down to this point. We are counting everything to this point. So somebody who understood my explanation, can you tell me what the count is going to be if we press enter now? So if we should press enter now, what will our count be? Remember we say it counts only cells that contain numbers. No, just in the chat area, no need raising your hand. So what will our count be? What will the total count be now for that array that I selected? Somebody said 16. Let me keep it there so that you see the array well. Another person said 300. $85, $60. Okay. See the array, oh, see the array. The array is the part I selected only. Oh. Okay. Let me see those that got it right. So far, nobody. Because I'm looking at our answer here. Nobody is correct. Okay, I think I've just seen one person that is correct. At least, thank God, one person understood what I'm saying. So the count is going to be 90. Because if you check these cells, this range, you can see it's 90. So it's not 5. Maybe you are counting from here. You forgot that our range started from here. Let me double click on the formula again. So you see, this is one. Each of these contains 15. You can see this is 15 names. So this also contains numbers. So it's going to count this part also that contain numbers. So this is the first 15, second 15, third 15, fourth 15, fifth 15, and the sixth. So it's going to be 15 times 6, which is 90. So that is how it gave us 90. Remember, it has counted all these cells, but it has ignored all of these other ones that contain text. So that's why I say counts only cells that contains numbers. Okay, I want to believe that's clear enough. So for count blank, in count A, we say count A counts cells that are not empty. So if we are using count A and we are using that same range, what will be our count? So we are using the same range. So what will be our count here? Let me see. I'm expecting everybody to have this one. 135, okay. 135, 120. Somebody said 0. How is it going to be 0? When we said if we count, it counts cells that are not empty. So are you seeing empty cells that is going to count 0? So I think majority of people are getting it. So it's going to be 135. That would be the right answer. So you can see there 135. So now for count blank, we say this one counts only cells that are empty. So count blank. So if I choose that same range, it's going to give me 0. You can see there's 0, showing you that there's no blank there. But now let me do something. So if I come here and I remove this name, if I delete this name, what will be the total number of counts? If I remove this name, what will be the new total number of count for count? For count, not count blank, for count. I'm seeing 90 and 89. Okay, a lot of 89. 90, 90. So this is where I'm knowing those that understand what we are doing and those that don't. So it's going to still be 90 because if I delete this, if I should delete this, you can see it's going to be 90. But what has been affected is the count A because count A has reduced by 1 and immediately you see count blank now has 1, showing you that there's now a blank. So count blank has recorded 1. Count A has -1, but count remains the same because what was deleted was not a number, so it doesn't affect the count. But if I come here and I delete 1 again from here, I delete this, it has affected count because what was deleted is a cell that contained number and is within that range. But you see count A, because that one counts everything, has also been affected. And you see count blank has changed to 2. So it now shows that in that array, we now have 2 blanks there. Okay, so I want to believe that was straightforward enough. That we all follow. Okay, so for max is a formula that is used to return the maximum value within a range. So maximum value. So if I say equals to max, I'm just looking for the maximum value. So I could just select the whole of this total as my range. Everything here as my range. So close that and hit enter. So it's showing me that the highest score, that's the maximum score here, highest value here is 89. That means those that scored 89 are the highest score in this very range that we selected. So the mean is the opposite of it. Mean is for the minimum. That's the smallest value within a range. Sorry, it's mean, not mean. Mean. So if I'm using that same range, close it and press enter. So you can see the mean here is 0. Why is it 0? Because we have 1 0 down. So it's selected to this point. So let me remove this. So let's see what the new mean is. So the new mean here is 24. That means the lowest score here in this exam is 24. There's no score here lower than the people that scored 24 or the person that scored 24. You can see. Okay. So I want to believe we've learned a thing or two. So I think this is where we'll be matching the break. So tomorrow, let me check our outline. Tomorrow we'll start from, we'll move to logical functions. So we'll start, I said tomorrow, next week rather. We'll move to logical functions. So we'll start from if, nested if, ifs, and so on and so forth. So the class is already heating up. This is not a time where you want to miss any class. Very, very important. I would also beg, if you're yet to upgrade your Excel, or it's not even Excel you're upgrading, it's your Office. Because when you do the upgrade, it affects all the Office packages, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and everything. So if you're yet to do that, please reach out to me. I've said it here. Make sure it is me you're reaching out to. I want to believe everyone here have my number. Reach out to me. That is one good way of at least me getting to know us better. And then if you have any issue with what we've done in class and you've tried it and something is giving you any issue, you can also reach out to me. Please, a chat on WhatsApp would be an ideal way to reach out to me. So except that thing is very, very urgent and important, or maybe you've chatted me up, I'm not responding, there's no need for a call. Please, just chat me up, I will try and respond. Okay, so let's take questions from this moment. Some people still don't have my number. Is that serious? Okay, let me just drop it again. My name and my number, in case you're here in this class and you still do not have it. Okay, so my name is Mr. AK, and then my number is +234 7068638592. Okay, so that is it. In case you don't have it, please get it there. Okay, so time for questions. Let's take questions fast. Okay, Nyambura. Sorry, hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You can unmute.
Of course it is. Yeah, thank you. Of course it is Nyambura.
Okay.
Okay. Suppose we had a 0 in the counter when we were doing the count if we had a zero as a number, would it have been counted?
Yes. I said even if you have comma or full stop, in as much as the cell is not empty, it will be counted.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, up next, Laura. Laura Omari, you can unmute.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, my question was, when we're doing these formulas and putting them on the columns, you cannot put the counts and the marks below that place where the formulas are. How do you undo that? If you want to put the totals below the rows.
Sorry, I don't think, let me go back to that sheet so that maybe I'll understand your question better.
Yeah, when we were doing the counts, we put them to the side of the sheets.
Okay.
I tried to put mine below the part where the third tab was, the exams and all those, where the rows were.
I'm a bit confused.
Where the columns are, we see there the
part?
gender, the first name.
Okay, to put them here,
Uh-huh.
that's up here where you have the total and the rest. Hello? What happened now? Laura, you muted yourself. Please unmute again.
Sorry. Mm-hmm.
So you
I
said
was saying,
putting it up here, like right here and here and here. Is that what you mean?
no, you put your count A and count blank to the side.
Okay.
Is there a way you can put them down where you are putting the columns?
That's
like below,
if
where the first name is below, after number 50 in the reg number down there.
if there's a way I can put them down.
Yeah, I tried and it wasn't working, so I was wondering, because the formulas are there, it interferes with the...
If I'm understanding you, what you mean is me putting it here.
Yeah, put the counts there and the count marks. And
If I should put, of course, it will be there now. So why will it not enter? If I type it here, it will be here now.
I tried mine where the formulas were and it was interfering with the
So that may just be something wrong with maybe the way you're doing it, or maybe just a minor error from your system. But if not, wherever you type it, it should appear there, in as much as it's an empty cell.
Okay.
Okay. Williams, you can unmute. William.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you very much for the lecture. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. I don't know, maybe we are still to reach there, but I just wanted to find out because it is something which just came to my mind. I said, let me ask it. Please, I want to ask these names, for example, the first name, the column of the first name, is there a way we can arrange this name to appear in alphabetical order?
Yes, of course, there's a way you can arrange that, but of course that will now affect the rec number. You understand?
It will affect the score,
it will affect every other column also. So one way you can do that is you can do what we call sort. You can sort and filter them. So if I should filter it, so I could filter them from A, that's from A to Z. That way it's going to arrange them alphabetically from A to Z for me. So
yes,
it will do that, but of course that will change every other data for you. So the rec number.
Oh, okay.
So except I'm
Thank you very much.
that one to another place.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, Rosemary.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Eken.
Good evening.
Thanks for the lecture. Yeah, sometimes ago while working on Excel, I'm not that really good on Excel, but sometimes ago while working on Excel, I added some columns, and at the end, I noticed that the space are not the same. They are not of the same sizes. Like I have some wider, some look very tiny. Is there a way we can automatically ask the lines, the spacings to be of the same, like your own that is this neat and with the same length?
So were you the one that made the columns some bigger than others?
Yes, I was trying to insert like I needed to insert some names, probably like you did your time.
Then what you just do the column alignment now. If you align the columns, it will shrink to the size of whatever content you have in it.
By double clicking the edge,
Yes.
right?
You can double click from up, or you can do the dragging manually. Just drag it to where you want it to stop.
Okay, sir. Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Sam. Sam, you can unmute.
Okay, good evening, sir, and good evening to everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you for the lecture, sir. I got something new this evening. I'm very much happy. Okay, sir, my question is, when doing the sequential numbering, sir, you said we can either start by numbering the first two cells and we drag. Then, what if we use the sequential formula you gave, and then later on we decided to add a new row? Will the numbering automatically follow the new and take into consideration the new row we added, or we are going to number it separately?
So it's at the point of using the formula that you decide how many rows you want it to do the numbering on. So if at the point of using the formula, you use just one column, then it's going to, okay, for the rows also, is at that point to decide how many rows you need. So if you said 50 rows, it's going to be 50. So if you're adding any other one, you're adding it manually on your own. So you have to now go down there and add it. Or you go back to the formula and edit the formula, change the number of rows. Then that can also work.
Okay, so what I mean is like adding a row around the 8th row. Since it is 50 rows that was numbered, and then I come between the 8th and the 9th, I add another row in between them. Will it automatically reduce the 50th row to the 49th, take into consideration the row I added?
Okay, so what I do, your question is very sweet. So what I do in questions like this is, it's just a simple thing. Just do it yourself and see what happens. That way, you have a first-hand this thing of if it will work or not. You have a system with
All
you.
right. Yeah, I have a system with me. It's true that since I was trying to follow the class, I was not doing it directly.
Don't
But
worry,
later on, I will do that.
I will drop the data set for you to use and practice. Then you can always try it out and see the outcome. So that's why you're
All right, sir.
okay.
Okay.
Emmanuel, you can unmute. Emmanuel, you've unmuted, but we can't hear you. Hello, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, your audio device is not connected. Latifat, you can unmute.
Okay, well done. Thank you, sir. So please, my question is, when do we need to use the count and the counter? Is it counter or count A? Like what's the essence? Is it like when do we need to start counting that we need to use the count? I hope you understand me. Like I know when you want to use the minimum, probably want to know the number and the minimum score in a class. So that's when you use the minimum. When you want to use the maximum, you want to know the person that has the maximum score. So for the cant and the canter, what's the essence? When do we have to?
So please, anytime you ask a question, it's always better you don't mute yourselves so that in case I have to get feedbacks from you also, is a discussion. So for the applicability of these formulas, that's based on the situation you find yourself. For example, let's say maybe I was doing a work late at night and the next morning, I just want to confirm, hope I did not miss something. Hope there's no way I missed. So I could just use maybe a formula like count blank, just select the whole range, use my count blank. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to see if there was any way I missed maybe entering a value. Count blank will immediately tell me, oh, you have a blank somewhere within the selection. Then I'll know, that means I missed something. So for count two, you may be doing something I want to, maybe you don't want to find out how many, the total number of cells in that very place, and you know it's all numbers that is there. So counts may become very useful. And then I told you these are elementary. Mostly we really don't have, but it's just good for you to understand it because we'll be moving to the logical ones where you begin to have things like count if, count ifs, and the other sort of counts. So those ones now are not the basics. These ones are just basics. So the applicability may not really be something rampant, but definitely you may meet a situation where you may have need for it. Okay, Joseph.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, sir. My question is that I don't understand the hiding, unhiding, then the freeze and unfreeze that you did. So I didn't get that part. I knew there was a time you did hiding, unhiding, then freeze and unfreeze. I didn't get it.
Okay, so because of time now, I don't think I can take that again, but the recording, I'll drop it this night. So maybe if you go over it again, then definitely you should get it. Because we just have 5 minutes to go out of here. Okay, engineer, okay, he has been logged out. Emeka's iPhone, you can unmute.
Yeah. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay. Like what I wanted to suggest is that you just answer that one first, because you said most of the things you've done and somebody's asking the question, you can always refer him, please rewatch what we just did. It will really help out, and then do the assignment. Secondly, when the person said, can we get it done alphabetically, you said it will affect the numbering. Yes, it will affect the numbering. What if we format like ascending or descending first before attaching reg number? Except reg number is according to school admission, so it cannot be achieved. That is what I just want to understand. Is it if the reg number, let's assume it's not a school number, you are the one attaching the number like as you taught us now, don't you think that it will be better we now organize it ascending or ascending first before attaching the numbers? Otherwise, let's assume it's a school admission, I don't think the ascending will work.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. So for your first question, yes, every time it's time for question, any question asked, I always try to redo it for clarity, but it's just time now. Mind you,
okay,
people joining from Kenya, this is already past midnight. So I also have to consider that. If not, usually I always go over it. So that's why I just had to plead with him to watch the replay. And of course, it's going to be. Then for what you just said, the second part, you just answered it. Of course, if I need to, if the reg number is not sacrosanct to each name, I could always put it off and then put it back later. So that way,
Okay.
if that we arrange the names, it doesn't have any.
Okay.
So that is
Okay, no problem.
okay.
Okay, no bye.
So Samson, please let's try to be fast. We're almost. Hello.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, sir. Good evening, class. I really enjoyed your class for today. It's very, very interesting. My question is just that presently I'm not with my system. So because I'm not at home, I'm using my phone. But I find it a little bit difficult to see as you are doing it. I'm just training my eyes to see it because I'm using my phone. I don't know, maybe when you are doing the practical, you can maybe bolden it a little bit so that I can follow you along and see. Although I will still watch replay. So just to bolden it a little bit so that I can see what you are doing. So that is just what I want to say.
So,
Thank you, sir.
So believe me, the size I'm using is bold enough, is big enough. It's just maybe because of your. So when you're watching the replay, since it's going to be on YouTube, believe me, you'll see that it's big enough because you see it better.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
You are doing well, sir.
Stella James. Hello.
Good evening, class. Good evening, sir. Yeah, can you?
Yeah, good evening. You went and muted yourself. Okay, unmute again. Stella James, okay. Like you're not ready for us. I said unmute. Jude, unmute.
Okay, thank you. I just want to ask. I noticed that the names and the other letters are in capital letters. Suppose, is it possible to edit? For example, we have the first name there, Ola, Eniola, Ola. Suppose I want to do the LA in small letter and the NIOLA in small letter. Is it possible? And if it is, how do I do that?
So it's possible. It's still part of what you'll be doing, but that is when you get to text functions. So there's a formula called proper. So if I'm using that formula proper, I could just put the name and it will change all the names to proper case. So what proper will do is only the first letter will be in capital. All others will be in small, just like the normal. So if I want all to be in capital, I will use upper. And if I want all to be in small letters, I will use lower. Those are all formulas you can use for editing text.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this class.
You're welcome. Okay, Fumi, you can unmute.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Thanks for the lecture so far. My question is, I heard you clearly when you said the purpose of locking is for maybe someone not to alter the data. But what I did not get is for freezing. Why do we need to freeze? I did not get that, please.
You need to freeze because if you have a very large data set, moving up or moving ways, you begin to lose. So let's even assume maybe I'm working with a sales data where I have different records. So I have maybe expenses, net profit. So the records are so much, and I want to be moving down. Maybe I have like 5,000. So there's somewhere I can get down to where I no longer column is expensive or which one is profit or which, you understand. So I just want that upper part to be freeze so that even as I keep it down, I can know which column is which. The headers are there. And if I want to freeze, column, I could also do that. Maybe if the customer has a given number or whatever that I'm using, you always see it. So that's the reason for
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
welcome. Bukola Yola.
Thank you. Good evening, all.
Yeah,
My question is, supposing I want to add another column, termed grade, and in my grade, I have a range of number, 90 to 100, A, 80 to 90, B, in that order. So how do I go about that?
Yeah, we'll get there. So that's the formula I'm saying we'll be treating next week. The if, nested if, and ifs.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Engineer Camille.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Thanks for today's class. My question is this: on the freeze and unfreeze, where did you get? Is this on the formula or on the review? I'm using 365, but I can't get it on my Excel sheet. That's what I'm asking.
Freeze and unfreeze.
Yes.
You have it under your view.
View. Okay.
View, not review. View.
View. Okay. Okay.
You've seen it.
Okay. Freeze and play. I've seen it. Thank you.
Window section.
Yes, I've seen a new window arranged.
Okay, last but not the least, Zainab. So Zainab, that will be the end for today. Zainab, quick one.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks very much for the section. It's been quite insightful. I have a quick one, quite relatable. Sometimes when you are working on Excel documents and you do a lot of navigation as you went through, you realize that, and you want to print, especially sometimes you print and you see a lot of lines, is it border lines or broken lines within your work. So you print out and the document seems separated apart. How do you detect at this point to know whether you have broken lines, and how do you manage it?
Okay, so I'm not doing printing yet, so I wouldn't know. In fact, I cannot even remember the last time I printed something. So I'm sorry, I don't have an answer to that. So I don't do printing. So, but I think when once you want to print by what I know, anytime you're printing, it will always show you a preview of what you want to print. So if the preview does not match up to what you want, you always make sure it is set to what you want before you go ahead to print. So in Excel, there's
We have a system called, hello, sir, are you familiar with Adobe? So we have a system called Adobe for signing. So usually, sometimes you prepare Excel document and you want to sign it. So you upload it there, and if you have broken lines in your document, it appears and the document doesn't come as a whole document. So we struggle to navigate our way out to identify where the broken lines are for us to delete them before uploading.
Can't solve that problem. I don't even understand what you're saying. So
Okay.
printing is not my own thing. If I have things to print in the office, I give it to the admin staffs. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Sorry, Osai, we can't take your question. We've gone too far. Class was supposed to end about 7 minutes ago. So I want to say a very big thank you to everyone for joining, and I hope to see every one of us next week. Please, let's do the assignment. I intentionally did not drop another assignment today because some people are already complaining that the assignment is too much, it's punishment. So I decided not to drop another one. So please, let's do the assignment. Next week, we'll be having huge and tons of assignment. So please, let's do the assignment. Very, very important. Thank you all. If you have any issue or anything, please, you can always reach out to me. Thank you.